Welcome to lecture 18. This is the third lecture of module 4. In the previous lecture we learned about theories of learning, and today we are going to discuss about transfer of training. Let us understand the concept of what is this transfer of training meaning, and when we make any employees, anyone to go through any training program, what do we expect out of the training program? We want them to use whatever the knowledge or skills they have learned during the training program and their current workplace, or in a future avenues where company will create certain situations. And now we need to understand the concept of transfer of training. Unless if an organization or the parties or stakeholders who are going to be involved in this training program, if they do not understand how the transfer of training will occur, what should be the conditions that will facilitate the transfer of training, then eventually all the input or the resources which are spent on designing the training program, delivering the training program will have no relevance to the organizations. So let us understand the concept behind this transfer of training. Okay. So now if you look at the transfer of training, this transfer of training, which essentially talks that influence of learning. What is this transfer of training actually talks about? Which it talks about the influence of learning one skill, which you are learning a one skill, which should have on the learning or a performance on the another. If you are learning something, we should reflect on the other sphere. Maybe you used some skill, you learned a new skill, we should be seen that yes, you are using this skill in another instances, or you are using it for a better performances. So most often what we have seen, training interventions are rarely successful unless otherwise the training needs are owing to the lack of knowledge or skill of an employee. As we already discussed in one of the lectures, that yes, you cannot always sought to go and provide training program for your employees unless otherwise the deficiency is resulting from the lack of knowledge or a skill. In some situations, we understand that the people who participate, or employees who go through a training, or individual who go through a training to acquire knowledge or skill, they only try to find out that yes, the training is not useful because that's not been supported in using this information in their current work environment. For example, you are sending a set of employees, let's say X1, X2, X, Y and Z. So let's say these employees been sent to learn a specific skill called ABC. But after learning, they come back to the workplace. What do they expect? They want the whatever they learn to be implemented or at least used in a new workplace. But if your work environment doesn't support to use the skills whatever you learned, then what is that happening? Because you are essentially not letting this transfer of training to occur. That's what it is very important. Or maybe many a times it happens that organization invests a lot of money and resource to conduct training programs. But what do they fail is that they do not create the work environment such a way that work demands that whatever the new skills learnt by this group of employees are demanded in their current workplace, or the supervisors or the co-workers are not providing support to use those new skills in a current work environment. Unless otherwise this is not happening, the transfer of training will never occur. Okay. Sometimes you should also understand when you are investing in training, company must ensure that yes, learners are supported on the job by their organization, okay, through their work environment, their supporters and co-workers. As I was saying, if you are sending somebody to learn a specific skill set, and when they come back, you should create a situation such a way that they will be given opportunity to use the skill in the current workplace, or at least allow them to experience or try out what they learned in the current workplace. Unless otherwise you don't provide it, what will happen? They cannot use effectively whatever they learned, and they will feel disconnected with the training program. If these set of employees again asked to go for a training program, individual employees will not show interest because my environment or my organization is not creating that opportunity to use the training program. As I was saying in the previous lectures, adult learning, which says that do I have a relevance to my current workplace? Unless otherwise you do not create this, then transfer of training cannot occur. Let us understand the definition of transfer of training. Transfer of training is nothing but carryover of habit of thinking, feeling, working knowledge or a skill from one learning area to another, which is usually referred as a transfer of training. Very simple. I learn something X which I want to use it here in the other place, which are essentially been used in this particular context, which were transfer of training, which I used to have the knowledge or skills which I learnt in this particular context, I wanted to be used in this particular context. That's where the transfer of training is, which is defined by Crow and Sorensen, which they also say very similar definition, which says persons learns through transfer to the extent that yes, abilities acquired in one situation which helps in another. Ideally, that is the intention of the training also. So I train my employees in a training, the 3 days or a 5-day training program or the experiential learning. I essentially want them to use whatever they learned during the training program in their current workplace or in any other opportunities they will get to use those knowledge. That's where the intention of the training program also. The transfer is the application, very similar to what Crow said, carryover of knowledge, skills, habits and attitudes and other responses from one situation which they usually acquired to the other situation. So essentially the transfer of training on a crux which talks about if you are learning something, either it can be a knowledge, it can be a skill, it can be an attitude or a behavior which you want to use it in the another situation. That's what you are talking about, a transfer of training. Okay, so now let us understand there are different type of transfer of training. Okay, the transfer of training we are referring to now how effectively my trainees apply what they learned in the job role, right? So there are 3 different types of transfer of training. One is a positive transfer. What is this positive transfer? This is actually achieved when my employees who attended the training or who gone through the training are essentially able to use those learning and apply that in the current workplace. That's a positive transfer where they will be able to show better performance. Let's say previously they were in level 2 of the performance. After the training, I could see they moved to level 4 of the performance. Let's say they were in a rating of 2, now they are in a rating of 4. So I could see there is an improvement in the performance which I refer to as a positive transfer. Yes, they are able to effectively use in their current workplace and it shows an improved performance. The performance is better than earlier situation. So it is called a positive transfer. Yes, I could observe there is a change in my employees' performance. Now comes a negative transfer. It can also be counterproductive. Okay, so that after the training, it may have a detrimental effect which result in training participants performing worse than they've been earlier doing. So it could also be done. Maybe they have been doing with their earlier experiences, they have been really doing well. But after that, the training program, their performance went down. Let's say some training on interpersonal skill or a customer relationship skill, some training which are not properly designed, which resulted in negative transfer. So which is actually lowering down their performance. Let's say somebody was in 4 rating, then they downgraded to 3 points rating. So this is called a negative transfer. Now comes the third type, which is a zero transfer. So this occurs when the acquisition of a new skill or a knowledge which has no effect on the workplace, which is, let's say X is the training program, Y is the performance. Okay, there is no relationship at all. It's not related to each other at all, meaning that the training program you have invested on something, you expect their performance level to improve, but you see there is no relation at all. It is zero. So it remains to be the same performance level, and this is called a zero transfer. Okay, so sometimes what will happen, we observe in many occurrences or many instances in an organizational setup that the trainer maybe was very fun, and my trainees or my participant enjoy the training program, but it doesn't, if it is resulted in zero transfer, what is actually happening? Company has actually invested in a good entertainment session for the employees, because anytime organization invests their resources, they always expect some delta positive change to occur, right? Because I do not want to spend money or a resource on which I'll see there is zero change. I always expect a positive change. Rather, I also do not want a negative change to occur. So now you understand the importance of a transfer of training. Does my training has a positive change on my employees or a targeted employees? There can be several causes. One can be poor identification of a training need. Another can be you provide training for employees who do not want to require a training at all, or a wrong participants, wrong employees being trained. Also a case where it will result either in zero transfer or a negative transfer. Every time organization interested in having a positive transfer of training, I always want their performance to be improved post training, right? So yeah, at time 1 and time 2. So time 1 is before training, time 2 is after training. I want them to have an improved performance. So positive transfer of training. Okay. Now, what are the conditions, certain conditions which will enable better transfer of training? Okay, there are certain conditions which are important for a learning to occur and make employees to use whatever they've learned in a training program. What are those? So it may be providing opportunities for a trainees to practice and receive feedback. The training should provide opportunity for the employees or trainees to practice and also get feedback from the experts or trainers. For example, if you're sending somebody, some of your employees on programming or coding, or maybe operating the machinery or lab testing, you can take any example. And this training should give them some exposure to how to do this, how to code, how to the programming, and how to run the program, how to test the software testing, or how to handle the machines, how to fix any malfunction in a machine. Then if they do something wrong, they should get a feedback. Okay, what they're doing is wrong, and if that training is providing this opportunity, this will have a better transfer of training. Next, offering a meaningful training content. The training content should be adequate and sufficiently populated with the content which are required to meet the deficiency we are trying to, or the goal of a training. Okay, goal of a training, which what you are intended to. A goal of a training is always what you are intend to improve, right? Or develop a skill. It can be anything. You wanted to improve or develop a skill, new skill possible. So the training content should be sufficient enough or adequate enough which can improve or develop the skill which we are aiming to develop through a training. And training needs to complete the program successfully. So trainees have to complete the program successfully. They should not be in a halfway. There are dropouts from the training program. Somebody who is busy cannot participate for a 5 days training. Rather they say, no, I'll attend 2 days of training program. Then maybe the later time I can attend the 3 days. So no, it cannot provide the overall outcome of the training program. So trainee has to successfully complete the training program. So you have to schedule the training program in such a way that yes, my trainees will be able to successfully complete the training program, and allowing the trainees to learn through observation and experience. This is observing. So if you look at observations, you can relate social learning theory. Now you'll be able to see how these theories are related. So as an expert or the trainer has to demonstrate, then after that they will observe and learn something, then give them the opportunity to experience it. Okay, so through experience, by doing some simulations, allowing them to repeat the exercise, experience what they wanted to do Through that, you will be able to have a better transfer of training, and then my trainees will also develop a confidence to do this particular skill or a task. Okay, and there should have a work environment to support the learning or use of skill on the job, which is very, very important. Your organization should create a work environment, very supportive work environment, which will support to the learning and also use of this newly learned skill at their workplace, which is very, very important. Let's say somebody has learned new software, how to work with the new software. When they go back, they have to be provided some opportunity to use in their current workplace. Okay, so these are some of the conditions which are very, very critical for the successful transfer of training, which we are aiming to positive transfer of training. Okay, so now we also understand the transfer of training model. So first is trainee characteristics. Means trainee characteristics, we are referring to employee or individual characteristics, their motivation, interest, the skill level, all that comes is one of the important factor which will lead to training and then a transfer of training. Then comes the training design, how the training has been designed, the content of the training, the trainer delivery of the training, the schedule, how it has been designed, all that is very important for both for learning and also resulting in the transfer to occur. Okay, then comes the work environment. Yes, as I was saying, work environment is also very, very important factor that will facilitate both the learning to occur and also transfer of training to occur. So these three factors which will lead to a better learning, because the trainee should have motivation, interest in participating in the training, or at least they have adequate educational qualifications to understand the concept being taught to them. This is very important to facilitate or create interest among the learning. Eventually that will lead to transfer of training. Similarly, how do you design the training, which will also enable better training experience for my employees or trainees. Similar is the case the work environment, which will lead to transfer of training. There are two transfer of training. One is about generalization and a maintenance. I will discuss in detail in the subsequent slides. Okay, now let us see and understand this training model in detail. So when you're talking about a learning which are relatively a permanent change in human capabilities, which include either it can be a knowledge or it can be a skill or a behavior or a competency, training we are essentially trying to make a permanent change with respect to enhancing the knowledge, skill or abilities or competence of the individuals, so that not result of a growth process. Okay, the diagram which we have discussed in the earlier slide, which were focusing on three important factors which will influence whether the trainee will learn and it will apply in a workplace, which either trainee characteristics or maybe a work environment, or as we are now looking at the training design, which will assure whether my trainees will have a better learning and also will apply in their workplaces. Okay, so there of course the transfer of training happens in two ways. One is about generalization and another is a maintenance of training, which we will see in detail. So when we talk about transfer of training, generalization, what is a generalization refers to? So trainees' ability to apply whatever they learned, either a knowledge or a skill through the training program, are they able to apply on the job work problem situations very similar to it, may not be identical to whatever been trained on a training program. So essentially what is the generalization happens is, see, in a training program you would have been given certain situations or a scenario or some way of demonstrations. Now through that demonstrations you would have learnt. When you go back to your organizations, you may not find a very similar situation, very similar instances to occur to use the skill. Now what is it actually? It is developing your ability that yes, whatever you learned, you may be using it in a different situations also, cannot be a very identical situation what you have seen during the training program. That's what generalization in the transfer of training. So you learn through a training program in a different context or a different situations, or maybe different exposures can be shown. Now whatever you learned through a training program, various situations can be explained or scenarios can be presented to you. Maybe in a training program they would have given you scenario 1, 2 and 3. Probably you will actually have a scenario 4 in your workplace. But though the training program focused on scenario 1 to 3, but the crux of skill, application of the skill, maybe you would have learned that you should use in the scenario 4 which you are experiencing in the job. That's what the generalization and the transfer of training we are talking about. Now comes the maintenance. What is this maintenance? Which is referring to the process of training continued to use what they learned over a time, meaning that you are using whatever you learned in a longer period. Okay, this is called maintenance factor, which whatever you learned, either a knowledge or a skill or abilities, which you are using it for a longer period of time, which is called a maintenance factor, whether the transfer of training stays for a longer period of time. Maybe you would have seen the recency effect. Immediately after the training, you will be using it only for a week or a month. Then the trainees would never even recollect or not using it at all. So the transfer of training has to see that now are they using it over a period of time. So that's what the maintenance we are referring to. Okay, now so who are the key individuals who are responsible, also engaged in this transfer of training? So first is a supervisor. Supervisor is responsible for monitoring and maintaining the quality of service, that and also ensures that yes, workers are properly supported in the workplaces. Okay, so they have to observe and also provide support to the trainees who will go through the training program, so that they will be able to use whatever they learn in the workplace. Now comes second person is a trainer. So trainer is a responsible person to enable workers to acquire or learn the necessary knowledge and skills to perform well on the job. It is a responsibility of a trainer to ensure that yes, whoever attends my training, they are able to learn whichever they lack, either a knowledge or a skill. So that's a responsibility of a trainer. Then comes a supportive worker. So they are also responsible for delivery of a quality services. Okay, so the learner is used throughout to refer to employees in participating learning interventions. So the supportive worker also is very important, because they are also able to support when these employees go for a training, they come back, when they use it, they should be providing supportive environment to encourage the employees to use the skills they learned during the training program. Then co-worker, yes, the co-worker plays a very critical role in providing supporting environment for the employees who went for a training, in applying whatever they learned in the training program at the work site. So co-worker has to support, promote and encourage, so that the trainees who went for a training program, they come back and appreciate. Where in some workplaces, or most of us could even experience that some set of employees would have gone for a training, when they come back and then use the new skill set, the co-worker will not let you use it. They will say, no, see, this I do not know, or what you do, we do not like it, which may not be useful. They will be discouraging you, do not provide you opportunity to use it. Then that way what will happen, that learning cannot be translated into the workplaces. So that's why the co-worker also plays a very critical role in transfer of training. Okay, so what are the roles of the supervisor? So the supervisor of the employee has played a very critical role, because they work very closely with the trained employees to ensure that they apply whatever they learned to the workplace. Okay, so when they spend a lot of time in training program to learning a new skill, should not be lost without regular follow-up to the work site. So supervisor plays a very critical role in providing support to trained employees who went for a training by serving as a coaches. They should act as a coaches in helping the employees who went for a training, and encourage the continued learning through sharing with the peers. They should encourage the trained employees, please share your learning. When you attend some training program, come back and share your learning. What did you learn newly through the training program? You share with your other peers, so that they will also appreciate what you have learned new. Can they also learn from you? That has to be done by the supervisor. And making employees accountable for using course material on the job. So it is very important you make the employees accountable to, yes, whatever you learned, if you have a course material, that you please use it on the job so that there is an improved performance. By this way, there is an effective transfer of training will take place. So these are the ways in which a supervisor can facilitate better transfer of training. Next comes the trainer. So trainer, as we already said, yes, trainer responsibility is that how do the trainer impart the knowledge or a skill which are required for the particular trainees. So some of the example, the trainer can act as a model for showing the application of new skill and behaviors in the workplaces by way of demonstrating that, yes, this is how you will use the skill, this is how you exhibit a behavior. By through that modeling behavior, this learners will be observing. As I said, social learning theory comes in a picture. By showing some role model and act or demonstrations that trainees will be learning from them. Then provide immediate and constructive feedback when they try with a new skill or a behavior. When they make mistakes, you provide feedback. No, you have to correct this, you have to do it in this way, this is where you are going wrong. You should allow the trainees to attempt to use the skill, and when they attempt, if they make mistakes, it is a responsibility of the trainer to correct them and point out what employees does well before providing a constructive criticism. The trainer has also have to support and encourage and also appreciate when they do well, and also provide a constructive criticism. And also trainer has to use the mistakes as a learning opportunity, specifically to describe how to perform the new skill or a behavior. In case they commit a mistake, you have to the trainer has to play a role of take it as an opportunity to correct them, show them where did they go wrong, so that they do not repeat when they go back to their workplace. This is how the trainer can play a very critical role in ensuring a better transfer of training to occur. The next is a role of a supportive worker. Yes, newly trained employees are to be encouraged to ask their supervisor to provide them hands-on opportunities so that they put their newly acquired knowledge, because the worker also has to ask, can you give me an opportunity where I can use the newly learned skill? I've learned about handling a tool, handling a particular machinery or a software. Can you give me an opportunity that I can apply, I can use in my current workplace? So this will also encourage them to have a better application of the learning they done through the training program. Then why the transfer of training is important. We were talking about who can play a role, catalyst in ensuring the transfer of training takes place. Now we need to understand why this transfer of training is important, because it helps employees to enhance their skills, knowledge and their thinking ability, and the capabilities of employees are enhanced when to apply newly learned skills and knowledge in their job roles. Unless otherwise the transfer doesn't occur, then it is about independent. What I am saying about independent, you will learn about ABC in training and your workplace requires let's say DGH. If you look at, these are all independent set, right? So this is what you learned in training, learning in training, and this is required in job role. So the transfer of training essentially should see whether this is mapping, this ABC what you learned is also reflected in the workplace, and ensure that there is an opportunity for employees to use it, and encourage managers to support employees with more skills and techniques so that they feel appreciated about attending training programs. And employees should be encouraged to make thoughtful review and reflections following the training program. Okay, and ensures the transfer of training also ensures that yes, employers and employees reap the positive impact of time spent in a training. What we are essentially talking about, positive transfer, right? Positive transfer is that improved performance. Okay, improved performance of employee, what will happen, which is directly proportional to improved performance of organization, right? So when there is an improvement in the performance of employee, which will definitely have an improvement in the performance of the overall organization. So organization also have to reap the positive benefit of the training program. So these are the references, and today we learnt about the concept of transfer of training, what are the why transfer of training is important, what are the different types of transfer of training, and we also understood the role of stakeholders, which we have talked about, supervisor, co-worker, and supportive work environment. Also, we talked about the role of a trainer in ensuring that transfer of training takes place in an organizational context. Thank you.